Hello, and welcome to our first ever tutorial on Decentraland. Today, we're going to be showing you how to incorporate an auto dance area into your world, into your plot of land, and it's going to look something like this, right? When we see a character come on a platform, a designated area that we specify, they automatically start dancing. It's pretty cool. We're going to go in from the very beginning, so if you haven't even coded before, this is a tutorial that you'll be able to follow and get all set up for any future Decentraland projects. All right, let's get started. Okay, so first what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to look at our Decentraland SDK, right? And an SDK stands for Software Development Kit. It's not a standalone thing, right? It's not just the Decentraland SDK, right? You wouldn't say, hey, I'm programming in SDK. And so all it is, it's what language what kind of libraries, what kind of set of tools are you using code in. And we're just going to follow it along. DCL actually has a pretty good tutorial on setting up your projects for the SDK. So I kind of just want to follow you guys along so you can see exactly what you need in order to get these projects up and going. All right, so first we got to install Node.js, right? And so go to Google, type in Node.js. You're gonna get this link. I'll put in all the links for everything we show in here in the description of the video, so you don't have to worry about anything. You know, go to Node.js, hit the download page. If you're Windows, go ahead and click the Windows installer. You want the long-term support LTS version, only because the current versions will have some features that might not be supported by Node. Think of it like beta testing. So if you do come here, make sure you do LTS. If you're on a Windows machine, Windows installer, Mac OS. We already did it, but we'll go ahead and show you. Right, just follow the wizard. Next. Again, we already did this one, so just follow through the prompts. I will recommend you put the installation on your C drive, only because it makes it easier for your entire machine to read everything. Now, after you install it, you're gonna want to add Node.js to your path variable, and in order to do that, you just can come down here to the Stack Overflow URL that I'll put in, and just follow these directions, right? So we're gonna go ahead and look up our system variable. Click here, you're gonna get this window. Click here on environment variable. This over here, and in this, you're gonna have these two windows. In this bottom window where it says system variables, right? You're gonna click new. Open this up and then give it a name. I called mine node. You can see it here. And you're gonna give the directory where you installed node, right? So here I installed it on my C drive under node modules, right? So browse directory, go to that directory, and then add it in here. Hit OK, and then you're all done. I will recommend that you restart your machine afterwards, just for it to take effect. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, restart your machine. It should be fine. To test if you actually have it installed, you can open up a command prompt, right? CMD command prompt, and we're just gonna type in node-v for our version. So it's here. It says we have version 16.15. Sorry, and if we look at our Decentraland, it says we want 14 or later, so we're fine. We are good to go on that. Now we need a place to actually code our stuff, right? And Decentraland recommends, I believe they recommend Visual Studio. If you're not familiar with Visual Studio Code, there's plenty of tutorials out there. I suggest just going through it just so you can work through it, see what it looks like, see kind of what you're getting into. But this is kind of where we start. And so actually, let me go ahead and make a directory for this. We've done this before the video, but that's okay. SmvshFriends, folder, this DCL tutorial. All right, and so this directory is where we're the point. That's going to be known as our working directory. So we'll go ahead and open folder. Go here, paste in our, and this is where we're going to start. Cool. Yep. Trust the authors. It is me. So here we have DCL tutorial. This is going to be all our files list. So going back to here, with our next step is to install, right? Npm install, and Npm comes with your node installation. It's just a command. I can't remember what it stands for. So yeah, we can actually just copy this code, and once we head over to Visual Studio, we're going to want to hit terminal. New terminal is going to open up a command prompt for us in here. You can do this outside. You can do it through this command prompt, right? You don't have to do it within, but I kind of like the all-in-one look and package of having it in Visual Studio. All right, so most of the time you want to hit Control V to paste stuff, but when you're in your terminal, after you copied something, all you got to do is hit right click and it'll paste it and run it for you. So here, now we're installing all our dependencies for Decentraland, and we'll just give it a little bit. Wait for that to go. It shouldn't take too long. All right, there it goes. All right, cool, completed. So next, we've done our install. Now we want to create our first DCL scene. So here, using the Decentraland SDK, we have commands where if we're doing something with Decentraland specifically, we have this DCL command, right? So we're going to go ahead and copy that, paste it into our terminal. So when you're first running DCL start, you might get an error that looks something like this, where it says cannot be loaded because running scripts is disabled on the system, right? And that's fine. If you haven't coded, you're probably going to get this error. To fix it in your terminal, just run this command right here. Set execution policy remote signed. All right, we're going to Control C that, open up a terminal, right click it in here, run it, and you'll be good to go. And it's going to create all our files that we need. Now it's asking, what kind of scene do we want, right? Well, what do we want to make? Well, do we want to make a smart item, wearable, our own library? In this case, we want to make a scene. Go ahead and make a scene. And so here we actually have quite a few options here, right? So cube spawner, do you want a scene with just a cube in the middle? Really basic. I think that's what we're gonna go with. But you can choose any of these, right? Lazy loading is really cool, where it won't load in assets until you get to a certain spot, video streaming, stuff like that. So for our purposes, we're gonna choose cube spawner, and it's gonna go ahead and make everything for us. We're gonna end up replacing the scene that it gives us, only because the other tutorial that I showed you with the two platforms, we're gonna wanna mess with that scene. It's gonna make sense. Don't worry, I'll show you. All right, cool. So we have everything we need to start our scene. So let's go ahead and run it. It even tells us, hey, do DCL start, right? We'll do that. DCL start, enter. And what it'll do is it will actually pop up a scene in our browser. So here we are in our browser, and it just automatically said, here we are, Decentraland preview. Let that load for a little bit. It can take a little while. Remember, Decentraland is in beta, so it can take a little bit. Gotta be patient. Okay, that was kind of a long load. So now that we're finally here, we actually see our scene. This is it, right? 3 steps, and we have an entire scene. And here's our plot of land. It gives us by default a 1x1. Go ahead and click so we can move around. We can jump. We have access to our emotes here as they load in. Wave, fist bump, right? Here's a clap one. Probably just waiting for everything to load. But we also have really cool options. For example, here we can see our coordinates in the world, right? We can also toggle our FPS so we can see how our scene will affect users and their performance, right? The more things we add, the more animations, interactives that we have, the lower the performance will be. So it kind of helps to gauge that, and we can have a proper user experience for our guests here in DCL. So first, what I want to do is this cube, right? We can interact with it, move it around. Do that. It's duplicating it. Pretty cool. Jump around. All right, cool. So this is the scene, right? We even have a debug panel. We'll tell you things like how many messages, polygon count of our scene, how many components we have, bodies, meshes, entities, all that good stuff. All right, cool. So now remember I said we're going to change this scene and the way it looks. And to do that, we're going to put it in, just so to free up our mouse. Go back to our SDK. And so now here we are in our edit scene. Everything that we put into our scene exists in this directory right here, source game.ts, right? So if we open up Visual Studio and we see our directory structure here, we see source and we see game.ts. So here it is. If we didn't want to spawn this cube, I can actually, if I say comment this out, right? And 2 slashes like this will turn it green, and you'll have comments. So if we highlight all of this, do control and click those slashes. Looking like I need this one. Oh, I missed it. There we go. Comment out the cube. Hit Control S. It's actually going to compile our changes for us. Back into our preview. And look at that. The cube is gone. Wow. You know, sometimes it makes you feel really cool. All right. So, but we're going to replace all of this anyhow. So let's go back here, and here is the tutorial from Decentraland on how to do the auto dance. Now it's a little outdated, which is why I decided to do this video. There are some things that it won't tell you to do that you need in order to make this work. But we'll go over all that. It'll be fine. Now remember, all of our scene data is here in source. So I'm actually going to open this in a new tab. And here we are. So here we have our scene data, regular game scene, and here we have our code for the dance area. Go ahead and go into the .ts file. We're just going to copy this. We're going to go ahead and hit Control A. Nope. We're just going to copy all of this. Control C. And remember here, game.ts, Control A, Control V, paste it all in there and save. All right, watching. Okay. Whew. After a bunch of troubleshooting, it turns out that their models over here in this repository, right? Decentraland. It went over here to platform. I'm gonna click on moving platforms. Hit models. These models are outdated. They don't work. I mean, it's 2 years ago, so I get it. So what we'll do instead of having these platforms, so it's not gonna look exactly like this era because I don't have any platform models, but we're just gonna go ahead and use the base, this white part, this base, which is totally fine. We'll use that as our designated area, as our base light. And so here I have commented it out. What we're gonna do is we're gonna follow this format, right? So anytime we want to add something to our scene, we're gonna make a new constant variable, give it a name. In this case, it's gonna be base, and say it's a new entity in our scene, a new object, a new thing. And then we're gonna start adding components to our base variable. And for example, this component is gonna be our model, right? Our little base light, which if you saw is just this white little area. If you remember what it looked like before, actually, we can comment this out where we add it to the scene. We can leave this here where it makes it. And when we do engine.add entity is when we actually add it to our scene. We can see it disappears, right? So we'll go ahead and bring that back. And what we're actually going to do now is we're going to do base.add component. And now we want to kind of copy this area. I'm a big fan of copy paste. Code a lot. You have a lot of things happen at the exact same time, so this really does speed up the process. So we're gonna have a new transform. We'll leave it exactly the way it is, and here is where we did specify our position, right? X, Y, Z. Scale, how big or small do we want it in relation to this position? So here we're saying, hey, at position X, we want to scale it by 2. So it's going to scale in both directions from position X by 2 units. So if we look at that here, Oops, did we save it? Yes, but we have to make sure that when we add our entity, that when we do our components, it's before our entity. Otherwise, it doesn't like that. Doesn't like that. Can we not add it to the base? Oh, I'm thinking it's this. Negative is too low, so we're actually gonna we'll do 2. Even if it's up high, we'll be able to see it. There it is, right? So the negative 0.5 was saying that it was in underneath our ground, which is not what we wanted. So there it is. We're gonna go ahead and bring it back down. Let's say 1. Up. Okay, but we're also scaling it by 1 to 0. Now it's black. Here. There it is. Okay, so now it's in our base. It looks like there's collision on it. Cool. All right, so our scale, it's really big. Let's see if we can't. Let's say we want the 1 so that we can see it. See, we don't want to scale it in any direction other than. Oh, it doesn't like that. Interesting. We're learning so much. Plus, there it is. All right, we'll scale it by 1. It needs to be scaled by at least 1. It looks like. And I'm assuming because it's the base, right? Now, we can mess with our positioning. I believe this corner, go ahead and open up. Panel here. Our coordinates in the world. And so right here, we are at 4.19, right? But the X position was 4. So if we move out over here, 0. So if we want this corner, want this bottom corner, we are at 0, 0. Well, actually, 0, 0. So 0 in the X position, 0 in the Y position. We're actually at 15 in the Z position. So this corner that we before. So this position is actually 0. Okay. 0, 0, 0 be in this bottom left-hand corner position. There it is. There's our base. So what we want to do is we want to turn this base, right? And we're going to add on top of this base an auto dance floor. Now we're finally getting to the meat and potatoes of it. So here, yeah, we're done with that. We don't need this anymore. Auto dance floor. Sweet. Okay. For this area, right, we have some instructions here that tell us open the dance area.ts file. The first thing you'll find is the definition of dance areas, which again, it's going to look exactly like our base. And it's an array. And an array is just a list of things that comes sequentially. So 1, 2, 3. You don't jump around. You say, hey, add this item at number 1, I want. This item at number 4, I want. Right? They don't switch around or anything. And we can change its sign, its position, and we have all of these dancing options for us, right? If we want them to only do the robot, tick, the hammer, what have you, or you can just say all, and it says right here, when you use all, then the auto dance will perform random dance animations, right? And it gives us a couple helpful hints and says set debug flag to true so we can see where the auto dance is. Definitely helpful. They're only visible if the scene is in preview mode, so it doesn't matter if you don't set it back to false. No one's going to see it when you put it in production, which is actually really neat. I like that system a lot. What else do we have here? The dance system's active only while players inside. Makes sense. And it just loops over a counter that lasts 11 seconds, which is the same length as default dance animations. Have here. Cool. For the try it out option, I mean, we've already done this, right? We've already installed our Decentraland dependencies and we've already started our preview. So from here, we're going to open up the source model, right? We'll go ahead and do it again, which shows us this, and we have our game scene right here where we make our base, here where we make our platforms. So remember, these platforms in this tutorial do not work. Don't know why they haven't updated it. They just haven't. So we're not using these. We only have our base, which is totally fine. We don't need these platforms. We're going to open up our dance area. And here is everything we need for our dance. Now, if you wanted me to break down through it, I can. Really quick, again, we're doing our requirements. These are kind of like outside libraries that we need. This one's going to give us some trouble in a little bit, and I'll show you why. Here's where we define our dance area. Here again is its position and its XYZ axis and the scaling of it. And here for the dance area specifically, it's when we define an area, right? We define its position, we define its scale. We also define what kind of dance we want. Remember, it could have any of these predefined dances. And so if we said, hey, we want this to be robot, if you notice, we also have it copied here. So this is saying once we go into our area, we can either do the robot or we can do the disco. And so that's kind of how you read this code specifically. Again, most of your stuff that you add, most of your scenes are going to have transform, position, scale, type, and then add entities kind of system. If we scroll down a little bit, here we're defining our events. When do we dance? For example, since we want it to be whenever they enter, when they enter and press a button up, right, forward, backward, right, left, and button up is just their way of releasing the button. We're not doing it on the button down. It's when they walk in and release the button up. You can change it. You can say button down, right? When they walk in and button down, it will subscribe this event, which is the dance. And so again, we can dive deeper into that in future videos if you all want. But for this video, we're gonna go ahead and just do our favorite thing: copy and paste. So here we have our. Go ahead and copy this. We are gonna move those imports at the very top because it is good practice to have all of your imports at the top of your code. Now, remember I said that this was going to give us a little bit of an issue? Here it is. What did it do to our scene? It actually took away our base. That is totally fine. We'll get it back pretty soon here. Now, in our tutorial, it never mentioned anything about this ECS scene util getting it anyway, or in the way anywhere, right? We're actually going to stop our scene because we need to download it here. And so here we see an error, cannot find the module, right? I'm actually going to copy that. And so we see DCL ECS scene UT. Now modules are going to be on the left-hand side over here. Something called node modules. Go ahead and open it up, and it says we don't have at DCL. Here it is, DCL. And then ECS, which we don't have, right? We don't have this package. For example, here we're not getting an error because it says if we go into our modules at Decentraland, right? So we'll go ahead and look at Decentraland ABC, right? Decentraland. Oh, I think this is the wrong one. Environment. Bin. Oh no. Environment API, we can actually just here. Oh, this is making that module. Okay. Anyways, point is, it's not in here, and we need it to be in here. This, copy this code here, right? It's the same package, TCL, ECL scenes, but we need this dash B command. Oh, don't need this. Close that. Go ahead and go here. So we're gonna actually do it again. Install it. Installed. Okay. Build it once more. We should be good to go. Oh, there it is. No errors. Yay. Okay. And we have that red line gone as well. So now here we have our dance areas, right? Which again, I'm just gonna begin dance code. And this is just to tell anyone working on this project what happens. All of this is dance done and dance code and auto dance code. There it is. Cool. You save that. Now we're gonna run it again. Just do it the old-fashioned way, DCL start. And again, this is gonna build our project just how we did before, and then open up a new window for us. We don't need this anymore. This is the old preview. We don't need that anymore. All right, and here we have it. DL with our base and a dance area. But we need to confirm our dance area, right? So let's see here. We're at 0, 0. Again, let's make sure. So position here, this dance area is at 4, 0, 4. So in our, we also have one at 10, 0, 10. Okay. So in our scene, if we went to 4, 4. Wrong here. 4, 0. 4, 0. There, 4, 0. Back here. There, 4, 0, 4. Or somewhere around this area, right? We should be dancing. Now, if we hit bounding boxes, see the edge of our base, but we don't actually see our dance area. So let us go ahead and we're going to raise these positions. Remember, our base is at 1, and if this is at 0, it's below, and our box should be above. Aha, this is what it was. I remember before I said that this debug flag. Yeah, you need to set that to true. Go ahead and load it again. It should load our scene, and look at that. We have our 2 dance areas right there. But also, if we walk into them, you notice we're not dancing. Right? See inside the box. There it is. We're in the box, looking at the shadow, but we aren't dancing. Why is that? Well, your friends on YouTube, you see in our auto dance tutorial, right? Remember this auto dance area, the main hub, right? It just says that you have to look at the dance area TS file, throw it in, and you should be good to go. But that's not the case. You see, Decentraland actually has permissions. Now, if you're familiar with the way your phone works, how every time you open up a camera and a position permission pops up and it says, hey, do you give this app permission to use your camera? Do you give this app permission to use your microphone, etc., etc.? Decentraland works in exactly the same way. So our permissions are actually going to be our scene.json file here. So if we go down here, this is kind of how we set up all of our stuff, right? If we go down, we see something called required permissions, allow to trigger avatar emote. And this is something that we need. So we're going to go ahead and just copy this. Keep that all the way to the comma, getting to the quotation marks all the way down to the comma. We're going to go into our Visual Studio Code, down, scene.json, We can, oh, look right here. We can actually put it in. So what I'm gonna do now, instead of the whole thing, perfect. I can actually this throw it in here, allow to trigger, and make sure we put quotation marks on it. This is something called a string, and a string is just a collection of characters. That's all. This is literally the sentence. Save it, and again, because it's a JSON file, I believe we have to. Because it's a JSON file, I believe we have to rebuild it. But let's just make sure. So we're gonna go in here, see if we can't see inside. Boom, we're not dancing. So yeah, let's rebuild it. I'm actually gonna turn off. Put this to false. I'm actually gonna turn off us being able to see those areas only because they're so big. You know what? That's so good. Let's just leave it true, and we're gonna on the scaling vector. We're gonna say, right? We're gonna scale these up by 1 instead. Debug set to true. In one of them, we're gonna be doing the robot. In the other, we're gonna be doing the disco. Save that real quick. Here we have it. So now we can see that. We're good to go. Close that out because remember we need to rebuild. Hit Control C to stop it. Control C is how you stop it. And then we're gonna do DCL build. I like to do build then start. But again, you can just do start. I'll start. Just the way I grew up programming was you always compile your stuff, build your code first, and then run it. It just helps you separate errors. If something goes wrong in the build phase, be able to find it and know that it's in the building and not in the running part of your code. But to each their own. However you want to do it is fine. I'm gonna let this load up for a little bit. All right, here we are. New scene, new character. All right, so now we have our 2 areas, and we're gonna actually press F12 just to make sure that when we walk in, and look at that, we're starting to dance. Get rid of F12. If you don't dance, you'd see an error here that says missing permissions. That's not the case because we added it. So here we have our dance. It looks like this one is chicken dance? Disco? I don't know. So that's the one, right? And then we're gonna go over here to this other box and it should be a different dance. Look at that. And remember, it's every time we walk into this area. Now, if you don't want to see, let's do something. Let's make it. We don't want to see it, right? Again, this is you only see those boxes when you are in our debug preview mode, not when you publish. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. They're gone. We had one in this area around here. There it is. You're dancing. Go over here to this corner. There it is. We're dancing. Easy peasy. We can actually, doing that. We can actually open up our bounding boxes and not see anything. All right, cool. So bounding boxes doesn't affect them when you turn that debug thing off. Cool. Good to know. But there you have it. You're dancing automatically in Decentraland through code. Pretty nifty. I hope you enjoyed this video. If this is too much for you or you've decided you want another route, please be sure to check out our buddy Coke Smush right here on this very same channel. He's our co-founder of SmvshFriends, and he'll teach you how to do these sorts of things. The builder. Now, the builder has some limitations, auto dancing being one of them, but you can build your scenes, right? You can build your scenes, build out your buildings, get a nice basic layout before even touching code. And for the most part, it'll be great. You'll love it. So be sure to check out his videos as well. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all later.